Hello and welcome to Universus video. Today we are announcing Triple Threat Thursdays. This is a new thing that, after talking to a couple of people, we're going to try and keep on running on a regular basis. So the question you must be asking yourself is, what is Triple Threat Thursdays? So, Triple Threat Thursdays, we'll be looking to set up a webcam triple threat game on Thursdays starting around 9 PM GMT, which is 4 PM EST. Games will be held on the brand new Universus Discord. I know we said we were going to wait till we had 100 YouTube subscribers first, but in order to run these events, we don't want to take up too much space on the other Discord, so we're going to make our own and put up everything on that. Games will then be uploaded onto YouTube, and it's a great way to showcase this amazing alternate format that promotes multiplayer play. So, for those who are not aware of what is Triple Threat, Triple Threat is first of all the Universus variant. It's pretty much the exact same, just with a couple of changes, and I have already gone over with Broberg what these changes are, and one of which has been adapted into the main Triple Threat, which is quite funny for me. So Triple Threat is a great UVS format designed for 3 players and can be played on any of the UVS formats: Spotlight, Standard, Retro, Sealed, Draft, Alpha, Legacy if you want to go absolutely nuts. But it is designed for 3 players, each playing their own decks. So starting a game, 3 players will play the decks following the legality of the UVS format. Now there is some differences as to how decks are constructed going between the formats, but there are some universal truths UVS will impose onto the decks. But generally, through deck construction, you follow the legality of the format you're in. Player sequence will be determined at random. There is no choice. No matter how you decide randomly, if you do it for high roll dice, if you win the high roll dice, you're going first, second, then the middle roll goes second, and the lowest roll goes third. This is because in order to balance the tempo plays, going third can have an advantage, and we don't want people building the deck specifically with going third in mind. So you do not get to choose. The player order is determined by random. So each player will build their character, starting character. First player, of course, has they commits their character. All 3 players will draw up to the hand size and may take 1 complete mulligan. No partial mulligans in Triple Threat. Then, after all 3 players are happy with their hands, the second player builds in a foundation builds in 1 card. So from their hand face up, doesn't have to be a foundation, could be an asset or another character. If you're going through the older formats, then player 3 builds in 2 cards from their hands face up, and then the game begins. So player 1 will then, with their character committed, skipping their review step, skipping their draw step, will play out their turn. Then player 2 and 3 will go through the usual review step, draw step, and of course, because they've played 1 or 2 cards, they'll be drawing additional cards. This allows them to keep up with the fact that combat will then be immediately starting on player 1's next turn. One of the other changes that's come in is engaged. So when you play an attack, a form, an ability during your turn, you will choose a target. So it doesn't matter if this is a lock character ability. When you play an attack, when you play a form ability, when you use things like Shigaraki, lock, you will choose a character until that ability has finished resolving. You and that player are engaged. You are engaged in combat. This is where this new term engaged has come from. Only the players that are engaged may use enhances, so the third player cannot use any enhances to interact with the combat. However, they are allowed to use responses. So if you've got things like League of Villains, if you've got cards that can allow you to respond on play, such as Petty Squabble, where you can discard a card and you can force if you've got Keen Observation, cards that allow you to respond to effects that both rivals are doing, you are allowed to play them. However, you do not benefit from them if they say both players. So if their ability would call for both players, or either player, which is something they'll come into when I go over to the erratas, it means both engaged players. So player 3 does not get to take advantage of universal effects being used in the combat phase of this engagement. So, Chivalrous Competitor would read both engaged players draw a card. Similar to other effects, it is a way to manage tempo and not allow the third player to be getting his advantages. However, that does not mean that they can't do anything. For characters like Nomu, you can respond and protect. If player 1 was attacking player 2, you can then deal with that. Yeah, so you again can commit a foundation to make the damage 6, keeping the player 2 alive. Because we'll get over to why you'd want to do that in a minute. Then we move on to blocks. Blocks is a very interesting one when it comes to triple threat. So, the engaged blocker gets priority first to block. If they fail or do not want to or cannot block, then player 3 gets second priority, which means player 1 will go into block. Player 1 attempts a block. Let's say player 2 attempts a block, fails the block, or chooses not to block. Player 3 may then step in and go, actually, I have a block. They play it into their own card pool, using their own checks. They don't interact with player 2's board at all, never do. And then after that block resolves, you can, if the format dictates, use the reversal response. However, the reversal response can only be used on the engaged attacker. Player 3 cannot, in this scenario, use a reversal response on player 2, nor can player 2 use it on player 3. They can only be used on player 1 because player 1 is the aggressor. There are other cards where that does come into effect, but just that, if you do use the reversibility, it has to be used against the player that is currently attacking. How do you win a game of TT? Well, triple threat. Well, that is simple. The game ends as soon as one player loses all their life total or another win condition is met, such as Nacked or I'm a Hero 2. Those are double elimination victories. Those will eliminate both of your rivals at once. But playing that strategy will make you a massive target. So it is a double-edged sword. But that's why you'd want to block for your opponents. That's why you'd want to be working together to keep each other alive. Because once one player's life reaches 0, or they have no cards left in deck, or another win condition is met, you lose, and the person that dealt the damage or triggered the alternate win condition wins. Also, if you deal lethal damage to yourself or trigger a lose condition, such as the price for peace, then you are immobilized. You do not get to interact with the game anymore. You sort of sit there and you can no longer respond. You can no longer play cards. You just sit there and wait for the game to be finished. The game isn't over because no one has eliminated you, but you don't get to play the game anymore. It's a really interesting thing to be added there. It shows that when making the format, they did think about all the scenarios. These are UK versus erratas. The first ones are just points of clarification. So with things like Turn It Up and Chronostasis, it would be where they say each player or either players, it would refer to each player's either engaged player's discards for Turn It Up. A Spear and Shield would be the attacking rival, or attacking engaged rival would be the one that flips. I think it's Flip or Foundation or Commit Foundation, but it's quite small on the screen. These are the big ones because these more change things. We got Lost in Thought. Now, Lost in Thought in the triple threat without this errata is quite powerful because it says all players rather than just both players. So, Lost in Thought will read all. Choose one foundation in all engaged players. So player 3, you don't get to choose a card on player 3's board and make them pick it up because they don't get to build down because under the rules, but it says both players, which means you'd be debuilding player 3 with no way for them to interact. I personally think that's not really fair or fun as the format is intended. So for UK versus, we have errated it to just only interact with the engaged players. Both you pick up, you make them pick up from their side, and player 3 is not involved in Lost in Thought. And Monomer is a very interesting one that I want to chuck in there. I'm changing it to once per rival, not once per game, once per rival. So if you're playing up against a Nomu and an Endeavor, if you hit the Nomu, you take the Nomu's abilities, but you still have one use left to use on the Endeavor. You can't hit Nomu twice and take both of Nomus. You can't hit Endeavor twice. You can only play it once per rival. That is something to me. I wanted to make Mono a little bit more interesting in this one, because at this moment you're just going to choose one person. You're going to keep throwing stuff at them until you get their abilities. And that's not going to be fun, and it's kind of going to be obvious what you're doing. So if you can do it once per rival, it opens up what you can do a lot more widely, and it makes Monomer a lot more fun to play. I've already gone over this with a couple of Monomer players, and they absolutely love this, so hopefully it'll have some nice impact into how Triple Threat Thursdays will work. The last thing to go over will be, of course, our final thoughts. This is a bit of a rewording of what Bromberg put in the original text. When it comes to free-player games, they're not going to be anything like two-player games. You should expect less control over the flow of the game. The pendulum of momentum will shift very quickly. And the idea is to have fun, and reducing your rival's life total will win you the game, but choosing when and whom to attack is very important. Overextending and making these mistakes could cost you the entire game, and if you're the one that's eliminated, it's going to reflect more in like how the game breaks down. And the biggest thing to remember is your resource management, and that although the enemy of your enemy is your friend, they are also still your enemy in this. If player 3 and player 2 are working together, it is a fragile alliance, and although they may be working together to take out player 1, only one of them can win. If you are interested in playing the Triple Threat Thursdays, we will be playing them on Discord. As I said, the Discord link will be in the description below, as well as available through Twitch, or you can reach out to me and I'll send you a link into it, because it is very, very cool. I'm hoping to see some weird and wacky stuff coming from here, and I hope other people start playing Triple Threat as well, because it is a very, very cool format, and I'm hoping that to see more multiplayer formats, because it just sounds like an absolute laugh. If you're enjoying the content, please do hit the subscribe button. It helps with analytics a lot. I see when looking at it, there's like 60% of people that watch our videos are not subscribed. If you do want to be kept up to date on all our videos, please do hit the subscribe button. It helps us out a lot, and we'll see you for the next video, and hopefully see you in the games of Triple Threat.